They really did love him because he knew how to handle men. He knew how not to, he was a leader. He really was a leader. And so are you.
Well,
so are you.
Do you remember when he, we moved out to Chevy Chase, and then he went over to overseas?
Yeah.
Do you remember that morning?
That he went overseas?
Yeah.
I went down to tell him goodbye.
Where did he fly out of? National Airport?
No.
Bowling?
Uh-huh.
Out of Bowling?
Uh-huh, on an Army plane. Some kind of a plane, I don't know, but it wasn't a national airport.
And
were you there?
Well, no, I just remember he woke me up one morning early.
And
told
him goodbye?
Yeah, he says, I'm leaving. I said, where are you going?
Well, listen, it was in the middle of the night.
I know.
It was black.
I know. And I said, where are you going? He said, I can't tell you. And off he went. He went to England.
Uh-huh. I was so forlorn.
Yeah, and you remember the V-mail letters?
What?
Remember the V-mail letters?
Oh, yes. And that's another very bad time in our lives, because I had gas coupons. I had to save those coupons to get out to the commissary to get food. I had to save those gas coupons so that if you or Catherine got sick, I could get you to the hospital. I couldn't use the car for anything except the emergency. And I had a little one of these folding carts that I would take up to Chevy Chase Circle to a market up there when I didn't go to the commissary, and I would have to bring it back with what I could get. And we had meat coupons. I couldn't buy very much meat, but what I did get, I portioned it out so that you and Catherine would have meat to eat. And then I had the most wonderful milkman whose son was a prisoner of war in Germany. And he knew that we had lost Eddie. So he singled me out to be sure that I got a half a pound of butter a week, and I got milk for you. But to get 2 sticks of, or maybe he gave me a pound of butter. I don't think it was that much. I think he just could save me 2 sticks of butter a week. I had butter for you and Catherine. And just because there was a bond between us. He was grieving for a son that was a prisoner. And they were hard times.
Yeah.
That was a hard time to live through. And then when I didn't get any mail, wouldn't get any mail, and we would, what's her name, Bennett? Camilla Bennett would call me up. Her husband was here. He didn't want to go to war. He found every excuse on earth not to go over, and they didn't send him. So he didn't get promoted. And Mildred Stewart's husband didn't want to go either. He wanted to be in the Pentagon, so he stayed behind. But they would call me up and ask me if I'd gotten a letter from Lou, and I said, no, I haven't had any word. Then they would tell me about these other women who weren't getting letters. And it was during that Battle of the Bulge. It was very bad. Christmas was coming up. I guess this was the Christmas before, and I had packed a package for your father for Christmas. And from the hemlock bushes outside that edged our property, I had made a little Christmas tree. And I'd made all the ornaments to go on it, and it was flat. and little red ribbon bows and things like that. And then I'd put cookies in another box, and I tried to make a Christmas box for your father, and I didn't have much to do with. And I sent it over to him, and he didn't get it until Easter. And he said when he undid it, he just had a skeleton of, of hemlock with little red bows tied all over it. Because none of the mail got through. And then it was the next Christmas that was so hard. That was when the Battle of the Bulge was in progress, and that was really bad. We didn't know anything about our husbands. We didn't know where they were or what was happening. We didn't get anything but the worst sort of news on the air. And it was during that time that Arthur Godfrey was on the air every morning. And he was so ridiculous and outrageous. And I would have a pad and pencil out there on the kitchen table. And every time he would tell a joke or say something funny, I would write it down.
PC pie,
What?
PC pie, cup of coffee. You remember, that's what he used to say all the time. To go down to the White Kettle or something like that and have a PC pie.
PC pie?
Yeah, and a cup of coffee.
Well, he was a very funny red-headed man. And in those days, he wasn't too big for his britches.
Yeah.
He was really a funny man. And so I would write my letters to Louis and tell everything that Arthur Godfrey had dropped that was funny.
Now you have up in the attic a footlocker, which is filled with all the letters that Pop wrote you and that you wrote to him. Have you ever looked at those?
Yes, and then weep.
Yeah, is that right?
They're upstairs.
Yeah.
I was going to burn them.
Oh, don't do that.
Don't.
No, don't burn it.
I think I burned mine, but I had his. I didn't want people to know how I felt.
Yeah. No, I don't think you should burn them because, you know, that's almost like a diary that he had.
Well, it is,
he
but
used to
there were
write-
so many very personal things in there I didn't want anybody to read.
You know,
But I have his. And somebody, you can have them. I have them all there. Catherine said, don't destroy them because it's a sort of a. It's history. It was history in the making because of the things that, you know, Roosevelt's death.
right?
I remember going out on Connecticut Avenue to watch the planes. I didn't go down to watch the caisson cortege. But I watched the planes, and it was the way they swept down. It was really tragic. I mean, you could feel tragedy in the air. And then when war was over, gee, that was wonderful. That was wonderful.
What'd you do on VE Day? Do you
What did
remember?
I do on
Do
VE
you
Day?
remember?
Well, I didn't go out of the house. I didn't go anywhere. I just remember, I think that there were all kinds of noises out on Connecticut Avenue. Maybe I went down. I don't remember. I remember one house that blew up. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
I went up to watch that. I heard all the ambulances going and the fire departments going up Connecticut Avenue, and I didn't know what had happened. And it was in Chevy Chase, and I kept following the noise, and I went over to this east side of Connecticut Avenue and near the Circle. And some boy back from
the war.
the war was in the house alone, and his father was a disciplinarian and was quite harsh with him and wouldn't let him have the car. And he thought he was a man because he'd been in the war. And his father said no, and he went down in the basement He had a little cocker spaniel. He went down and with the monkey wrench or something, he uncocked the gas meter in the basement and blew up the entire house. And the roof went up and the walls went in and the curtains were all over the trees. You weren't there. You were.
I saw it.
Did you see it?
Yep.
And I stayed there and I watched them bring this young man out on a stretcher, and they kept on digging and they found the cocker and they brought the cocker out alive. The little dog lived through it. But the whole house went down. After it blew up, it went down inside. And it was such a shock to me. To this day, it's such a shock.